Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, man. Hunt the ball. Let's go, family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family.
Hello, football family. Welcome in to Huddle It Up Films, Week 13. Jake's with me. It's Ravens-Steelers week. Ravens at Pittsburgh. The Ravens, by the way, are 4-point favorites last time I looked, Jake. So expecting a close game. Vegas has odds on the road team, thinking that the Ravens are a better team than the Steelers here, because usually you get that 3-point advantage by being at home. So the Raven or Vegas likes the Ravens by about a touchdown in this game, with them being 4-point favorites. How are you doing, Jake? We're missing our buddy tonight, man. Talk about Garnett for a second.
Yeah, man. I'm doing well. We're definitely missing Garnett. I think he has some issues with his knee. He's had tons of surgeries on that, so we're praying for him, hoping that gets better. Thank you guys for taking care of the show last week without me. I was with the in-laws and enjoying Thanksgiving, and you guys, continue to do your job. So I appreciate and applaud you guys for doing that. So let's shout out his new Twitter handle, because
I was just about to look it up. It's Neil W, which is NEALW 478. So he still kept the 478. That's Garnett's new Twitter handle. Not going to talk about what happened to the old Twitter handle, but that's gone. So I'll try to remember to link that up, Jake, at the bottom, and change that up. But I'm a forgetful person, so if it's not, go ahead and find him, NEALW 478 on Twitter. Shout out to Garnett, though. It's a nasty injury. He sent us a picture. I'm not sure I wanted to see what he sent, but he's at the hospital now getting that knee taken care of. So God bless you, Garnett. Hope everything goes well with that. Not much more we can say. Just, hope and pray that he's okay and the surgery went well, because I know he doesn't want to go for surgery number 5, Jake. That's pretty awful.
Man, yeah, it's super rough. So hoping that gets better for you soon, Garnett.
Yeah, buddy, and it was an injury occurred in the line of duty over in Afghanistan, which just makes my heart heavy, man. So I hope Garnett's okay, man. And we'll see you next week, buddy. Heal up. We got plenty of season left. So we'll have Garnett back next week, hopefully 100% ready to go. He was ready to tough it out, but Jake and I told him, go to the hospital and get that stuff taken care of, man. You got to know when to say when sometimes, Jake.
Yeah.
So, hey, into this game. Crazy week. Now, we're pretty in touch, and a lot of people who watch the show are in touch with the Ravens, their injury issues, the up and down nature of the offense, the defense coming together. But, Jake, in Pittsburgh, things are a little chaotic. Now, they started off 5-3. They tied the Lions and have lost 2 straight games. In fact, they've given up 41 points, exactly 41 points in 2 straight games to the Chargers and to the Bengals. There's a lot of chatter in Pittsburgh. They have their own injuries that we'll get into later, but former players challenging the team. Tomlin and the players going back and forth. Minka Fitzpatrick, Joe Schobert, Claypool this week talking about music practice. Like, what is he talking about? But basically, it's not all kosher in Pittsburgh. And with this game being in Pittsburgh, I think it's important to start fast against this team, as the fan base seems a little frustrated themselves with everything that's happening. Their playoff hopes are on the brink. So a chance to maybe turn this the fans against Pittsburgh if the Ravens can get off to a strong start here.
Yeah, that would be huge. Pittsburgh's having a tough time. Things in Baltimore, although the Ravens lead the AFC, they lead the entire conference right now with the record. It doesn't really tell the true story of how the Ravens have been playing, especially on offense as of late. The defense has stepped up in a big way. They played well against Chicago. They played pretty well against Miami. And then, of course, they had a really good game this past week. So hopefully Lamar Jackson is just ready to have a game where we're like, oh, yeah, there's the MVP that was playing earlier this season. And there's our offense that can really carry the team as well. So it's a game for both teams. I know Pittsburgh might technically need it more, but Baltimore should be clawing and fighting as hard as they can to get to 11 wins. And they just need 3 more. And getting one right now against Pittsburgh on Sunday would be so critical, so huge for the Ravens. It would be a big move to kind of stymie what Pittsburgh wants to do in terms of getting to the playoffs and, trying to fight for the AFC North division title. So hopefully the Ravens can just take care of business here and really get closer to actually locking in a playoff spot.
Yeah, spot on, Jake. I mean, the Ravens are the number one seed. They're sitting at the top of the AFC North. It's a position. Hey, you ask, week 13, you're number one seed in the AFC. We will take it. But the vibe around Ravensdown, as you know, is not that. It's a lot of questions. What's wrong with Lamar? What's wrong with the offense? What's wrong with the running game? What's up with the big plays allowed on defense? So this isn't your typical number one seed where everybody's feeling great about themselves, and they're looking inside for things, the ways that they can improve to try to keep the lead in the AFC North and the AFC overall, for that matter. So it shouldn't be a letdown game for the Ravens. Not there, and then plus you're walking into Pittsburgh, Jake. It's not like you're going to come into this game overconfident. You know how these games are. You know how they can be. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a physical game. So there are a lot of advantages, I believe, for the Ravens in this game when we're going to get into the line play, the X's and O's, the players that are out. But overall, this should still be a game that the Ravens should be preparing for a dogfight.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight. You always know that. Playing Pittsburgh, I mean, Ryan Mallett has won the game for the Ravens. And just on the other side of it, offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay has won as the quarterback, as the backup to Big Ben. So, so many guys play
RG3
play a key role in this one. And it's going to be about next man up for both teams. And we'll get into if some key players for Pittsburgh are playing. And I think one of them probably will be. And then another one maybe is not as marquee of a name, but he might be out.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about the line of scrimmage for both teams. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had some continuity on this offensive line, but it's not your uncle's Steelers offensive line where they had the same guys, it seemed like, forever. This is a young group. Just go from left to right. They have a rookie fifth-round pick who's been starting at left tackle. They have at left guard Kevin Dotson, good young player. Rookie Kendrick Green at center. Trey Turner, a lot of us know about him at right guard. Mm-hmm. And then Okorafor, their right tackle. Now, this group has done a lot better than it did last year as far as their run blocking. The Steelers are committed to the run. When they drafted Najee Harris, that was a clear signal. And even Freiermuth, who was a two-way tight end, that they were going to try to run the ball. They haven't been ultra successful at it, but they've stuck with it. But as far as pass blocking, this line has struggled just like it did last year. Big Ben is getting the ball out quicker than any quarterback in the league, yet they still given up their share of sacks. So when you look at the Ravens and their strength, their emerging defensive front with Odafe Oweh, with Justin Houston, with Tyus Bowser, with Calais Campbell now practicing off of his concussion, Matabike stepping up. This could be an area of strength for the Ravens against this Pittsburgh offensive line.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. It's not a group to be super proud of in Pittsburgh. They have been a team with really solid line play in years past. But those players have gotten older. Some of them have left, retired, and moved on, and they're trying to rebuild. And right now it's just tough with an aging quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger that's still trying to get it done, but he just has to get the ball out so darn quick. And their passing game is really just an extension of run game. Pittsburgh by no means is the same blue collar offense that we used to see when they had Jerome Bettis. It's evolved since then, and they have Najee Harris, the first round running back, who's a really good player. But really, their passing game is so much of their running game now, with the quick passes, the slants, screen passes to Deontay Johnson, and then the occasional deep ballooning pass to Chase Claypool and to Washington. So, it's going to be a matchup that I look forward to as a Ravens fan because of those guys you mentioned. Odafe Oweh is playing at a really high level. If he can string some more games together, he has a very outside shot of, competing for the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. Micah Parsons kind of has it wrapped up right now, but we are so proud of Owe and Baltimore. He has a real shot at the Pro Bowl too, with the way the Ravens fans are voting. And then Justin Houston and Calais Campbell getting back from concussion will be huge. Brandon Williams is finally playing some good ball. I think he was dealing with that neck injury and maybe a little bit more than fans really realized. And then Justin Ellis too. He's just a run stuffer, but the guy's been playing really well this year, and I think he's gonna get another year next year with the Ravens. I think he just has a 1-year contract right now, but I'm happy with where the Ravens defense is, and I just hope injuries and sickness hold up.
Yeah, exactly. And, this Pittsburgh team, especially their center, Kendrick Green, was a guy I like coming out of college, but his thing is dealing with power. And you will see him, get overpowered. You will see him on the ground. And he's extremely mobile. He's a fighter. But when you're talking about the power that Brandon Williams and Justin Ellis bring, that could be a problem with them. And then, of course, when you have tackles who aren't performing, and Tomlin was talking about changes this week. I don't know if he's talking about the offensive line or what. I mean, there's not too much you can change when you have Juju Smith-Schuster out and your receivers kind of are what they are. You got the bell cow running back. You got the bell cow tight end. So if you're talking about changes and if it's on the offensive side, it would be their line. But it kind of is what it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. It's not a great pass blocking line. They can run the ball. Like I said, they're committed. The identity has changed a little bit compared to last year, Jake, where you have Najee Harris and they're trying their darndest to run the ball. I respect that from Pittsburgh. It's just that, in this offensive line, they've done an okay job run blocking, but pass blocking is still an issue. And like you mentioned, that limits what they can do on that side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Najee Harris was clearly brought in because Big Ben is aging. And he's a talented running back, Harris is. And bringing back somebody in the mold of what the Steelers have liked in Le'Veon Bell and, backs previous to that, somebody that can really take a bell cow load for the offense was critical for them. And I think it would be even more successful if their offensive line was healthier and if they just had a little bit more talent in that group. And part of it is Big Ben's arm is just not what it used to be. He can still throw the ball a little bit deep, but he needs some time to do that, and they aren't providing it. And it's kind of like Drew Brees. It becomes a noodle at some point. And the quick passing game has worked for them the past couple of years, but teams catch on and they adapt and they play defense a little bit better. And that's kind of what we're seeing for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense in the past couple weeks.
Okay, so let's get into the running game. The running game of the Steelers versus the run defense of the Baltimore Ravens. You can see the Pittsburgh running offense, as far as yards per carry, is 29th in the league. They're only averaging 3.7 yards per carry with Najee Harris controlling the action there. The Ravens' run defense has been steady and improving. They're only allowing 4.1 yards per carry, which is up now to 9th in the league. And you talk about rushing yards allowed and rushing yards gained. This Ravens defense has done well. And Jake, Najee Harris is the bell cow here for the Steelers. There is no second or third running back, really. I mean, they're only getting a few carries a game when you talk about McFarland and Benny Snell. So this is the Najee Harris show in Pittsburgh. Catching balls out of the backfield, but really being that workhorse that Mike Tomlin likes to have there. When I look at this matchup, and the numbers will tell you, you kind of like the Ravens here, and it seems to be all about tackling, Jacob.
Yeah, it's 100% about tackling, and the Ravens have struggled in that area for much of the year. I feel like it's kind of making a turn. The team is improving in many ways. Patrick Queen has been pretty much stellar since Josh Bynes has come in and solidified that linebacker room. He's playing more on the weak side, and that has freed him up a ton. I don't know if the coaches have done anything, if he just likes that side more, if he's not thinking as much when he plays. But good gosh, he is running to the ball in a hurry. and diagnosing things much quicker than he was earlier in the year. And he's making tackles. Yes, he missed one on Nick Chubb in the game against the Browns, but other than that, man, he was so solid. I was just like yelling out his name watching that game. So I am very pleased with how they have been tackling recently, but it's always an issue of concern. And Najee Harris is a special running back, so they're going to have to wrap up all 11 men to the ball and stop that running game completely, dead to rights. I don't think they're going to be able to run up the middle, but on the outside, Chuck Clark is going to have to keep on putting his nose in there and pushing the running back inside like he did against Cleveland, because that was an awesome group effort by the Ravens. Really, really great to see. And getting Calais Campbell back should help. So we will see how that unit plays. But I'm not too worried about the Ravens defense up against this rushing offense of the Steelers.
Yes, for me, it's all about tackling, and we've seen an improvement in the second level of the Ravens defense in that area. When you're talking about Josh Bynes, a very short tackler, Patrick Queen, of course, chasing a lot of things down from the backside now. And we saw him when he was on the front side, pretty much playing a true Mike, just shoulder up a Browns offensive lineman, one of their guards. And of course, their offensive lineman's a big, powerful group there in Cleveland. It's just like the mindset of Patrick Queen has just switched, the on switch, whatever it was that motivated him, whether it be in Bynes or whatever outside noise that he seems to pay attention to and thrive on and tweet about, has gotten to him in a positive way. So for those of you who were hating on Patrick Queen, keep doing it, because it seems to motivate this man. And then, of course, a short tackler in Chuck Clark, who, we've seen some missed tackles from Chuck this year too. Brandon Stevens has been up and down. So really, for me, it's about tackling, because on the line of scrimmage, I expect the Ravens with a big, strong group to be able to control the Pittsburgh offensive line. So we'll see how that plays out. Just do anything you can to bring Najee Harris to the ground and to keep the defense, to keep the defense fresh and keep the Steelers off the field.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So the next group, I guess, would be switching over to the passing game for Pittsburgh. We already mentioned it a little bit, but Big Ben is not quite the same guy he used to be. He doesn't have as much of an arm, and he is getting rid of the ball faster than anybody, like you mentioned.
Exactly. And I'll get into those numbers right now. Now, the Ravens, of course, struggled on pass defense, and it's been the big plays, down a good defense. But the Ravens are still sitting 30th in pass defense when it comes to yards per attempt allowed. They're allowing 8.0 per pass attempt. But on the flip side, Pittsburgh is not a team who can take advantage of that. When you're talking about your average yard per attempt, they're sitting at 29th. Only getting 6.4 yards per pass attempt. So let that sink in. If you're talking about 4 yards per rush, they're only at 6.4 yards per pass attempt. It is very much a ball control offense when the passing game, with your occasional deep shots to James Washington or Claypool. But they're going to look to get the ball to Deontay Johnson. They're going to look to get it to him in different ways and let him try to break some tackles.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, the average depth of target has to be extremely low in Pittsburgh. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I mean, Johnson is getting the ball extremely shallow routes. I mean, you're talking about drags, slants, screens. He is being fed the ball a ton. So if you're in fantasy football, this is a guy that gets, 1 million targets a year, and it's great to have him in that sense. But the Pittsburgh offense is not super efficient. It is an offense that is using the passing game, like I mentioned earlier, as an extension of the running game. So if the Ravens can get the Steelers into some third and longs, it should be relatively easy for the defense to get off the field, force punts, and give Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense a chance to move down the field and put some points up there.
Yes, and the Steelers offense they're averaging 20.4 points per game, which of course is not great. It's not good. It's bottom third of the league. So they have been struggling on offense, but yeah, it's kind of like with this receiving group is the one area that you have to pay attention to for the Steelers in their passing game, because you have guys, athletes like Deontay Johnson and Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster will be out for this game. Of course, I believe he's out for the year.
Mhm.
So, they don't have that possession receiver on the inside that they like. And it's really just a two-man show there in Pittsburgh. When you talk about Johnson and Claypool, James Washington heading for a contract year. I believe this is it for him. And he's really hasn't produced. You're talking about a guy who's 15, 20 catch guy on the year. So a two-man show. That's why they've leaned on the running game, and why I mentioned that I'm proud of them for sticking to it, despite averaging only 3.7 yards per carry in Pittsburgh. But this is a game where the Ravens can dominate if they play well, like they did last week in Cleveland, against Cleveland. If they go to Pittsburgh and shut this offense down, it's going to make for a long, long day for Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, 100% it will. I really kind of see this game being similar for both teams in areas of recent strength. Of course, that's not so much true for Pittsburgh, as they've allowed, 41 points the past 2 weeks. But when we talk about Pittsburgh, we think about their defense and how that is a strong unit. And Lamar Jackson hasn't really played some good games against Pittsburgh. And perhaps this is the week that can change. I certainly know he wants it to change. He's ready to get that 4 interception game off his mind against Cleveland. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he and the Ravens offense can do. But that being said, the Ravens defense has played well. The offense has been bad. The Steelers defense is probably the strength of their team, and their offense has been pretty bad. So similar teams, they kind of mirror each other in that way. So with that, let's move on to the Ravens offense.
Well, they're similar teams. But before we move on to the Ravens offense, I wanted to ask on defense, especially without Garnett here, he's going to love me saying this. But for me, my plan of attack against this against this Steelers offense would be to kind of play it a little bit safer than normal, to not blitz a ton, because I want guys to be in position to tackle these receivers after they catch the ball. If you have a missed tackle by a cornerback who's has a bad angle or so on and so forth, they get the blocks executed. You're going to want help from your linebackers and your safeties to be able to eliminate some big plays. And really, if the Ravens don't give up big plays against the Steelers, Pittsburgh's going to have a tough time grinding out some yards. So, Garnett, you're going to be proud of me, buddy, when you're listening to it. I'm going for a full no wink this week. Of course, the Ravens will blitz some, but I would like to eliminate some of that. Let away Houston, Bowser, eat on these tackles who struggle in pass protection. Let them get some pressures. It's not going to be a ton of sacks because Ben gets the ball out early, but let them pressure Ben and by themselves and have some guys in position to tackle these receivers. Jake, how you feel about that, buddy?
I love your idea. I mean, this week I am a 4-man rush kind of guy. Just put those guys in the medium to shallow coverage range. Make sure you have safety help if you need it, and then attack with those 4 primary rushers on a given down. Get after Ben whenever you can, and keep the plays in front of you. If you tackle and keep stuff in front of you, they're not going to throw the ball deep, and you can get them into some third and mediums, third and longs, and get off the field as a defense. So I'm 100% with you. I'm with Garnett. I'm assuming that he would be right there with the no wink.
Oh, wait a minute. Garnett just texted me. He wants to blitz on every play. That's what he says here. Blitz on every play. He did not include you in this text. So, don't look or anything. But Garnett, no, Garnett. I know you wouldn't say that. And just trying to mess with my buddy. Hopefully he's feeling well. So, yeah, Jake, let's switch it over then. The Ravens have the ball. When the Ravens have the ball against the Steelers defense, obviously the Ravens offensive line is a group that has come under fire. But the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line, I mean, man, you look at this Steelers defense and it has fallen apart 41 points allowed in each of the last 2 weeks. And really, the defensive front is part of this issue. Now, you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, they have TJ Watt, who may or may not play this week, so it's only so much we can guess. They have Cam Hayward, who they're relying on a ton. You probably have his snap counts up there, but he's playing basically as much as he can. And then, of course, free agent addition, Alex Highsmith they have as well. But yeah, former Raven Chris Wormley's been on that line. They have Isaiah Buggs, who's banged up as well. He's been limited. He's been struggling. Taco Charlton, a former Cowboys draft pick who was kind of given away. So on this front of the Ravens, maybe this is a game where, if TJ Watt's playing, which we'll prepare for on the show, you double him, you chip him, you run away from Cam Hayward, or you run at Cam Hayward to try to wear him down. A lot of ways that the Ravens could slice this. And then, from a run blocking and both a pass pro perspective, how do you see this matchup playing out, Jake?
I am of the belief that Mr. Watt is going to play in this game. I'll believe it when I see it, that he is out of the game. But as of now, I don't expect him to not be out there. He is a special player, defensive player of the year candidate annually. So it's tough. I think in the run game, you can attack him a little bit, but you might need to use some double teams. Same thing with Cam Hayward. They're both monsters on the defense, clearly key members of that unit and really the leaders there. So I don't know how much you can attack them because they're both good players in the run and the pass, but to wear them down is really the idea. Like you mentioned, Chris Warren, we know him pretty well from his days in Baltimore. He is a very active member of that defense, playing 69.9% of their snaps this year. So he's out there a ton, way more than he ever was in Baltimore. Other guys, Isaiah Buggs, 31% of snaps on defense. He's being utilized a good bit. And then Cam Hayward, like you mentioned, is at 81.5%.
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah, so I think the trenches is a battle when you're talking about those key players, Cam Hayward and Watt. But other than that, the guys don't have to do too much extra. Just do your job, and you have a decent chance to win your battle or kind of remain equal with the rivals in that trench battle. So I think the Ravens have a shot to run the ball well here. The Steelers have been abysmal against the run, which is really weird to say because they're very much like the Ravens in the way they form their defense to stop the run first and then get after the passer.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as the line play is concerned, Cam Hayward obviously is a guy who can wreck the game. Not even statistically, but just blow up run plays, even if he's not getting credit for the tackle. And of course, TJ Watt speaks for himself. Highsmith is a good player, runs a little hot and cold. So that's a guy that I believe the Ravens can attack, but the Ravens don't have a dominant offensive line. So it's something to keep in mind. This could be a draw. I think that if the Ravens can just hold their own on this side of the line of scrimmage, that they will be quite fine because the Steelers have their issues on defense. And Jake, you mentioned it, the run defense of the Steelers. This is a mismatch on paper. Now the Ravens are averaging still 4.6 yards per carry. Not bad. That is fifth in the league, if believe it or not. So the Ravens aren't as dominant as they were in the run game the last 2 years, but they're still ranked fifth in the league in yards per attempt. The Steelers, 31st. They're giving up 4.8 yards per rush. Can you imagine that? So the Steelers are giving up 4.8 yards per rush in something that they've prided themselves on, which is run defense, much like the Ravens. You mentioned the similarities in the organizations. I mean, the Ravens pretty much patterned themselves after the Steelers when they first became a franchise. And, they've been matching each other in run defense. But, man, where the Ravens are good on run defense, this Steelers team has really had its problems.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And the more I think back to previous years, I really do see this as a big opportunity for the Ravens running game. You think back to those games, RG3 was playing at quarterback. Um, and then, of course, Trace McSorley, and then other years with Lamar. The run game can get going against Pittsburgh, even though it seems unlikely year after year. Uh, it's something that the Ravens can do well, and if they need to break out Lamar running a ton of times in the game, they will, because winning the game matters more than style points.
Yeah,
Period.
and I mean the
It
Ravens.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
I was going to say the Ravens were running the ball great against the Steelers in Baltimore when both
Yep.
teams were COVID free last year, and the Ravens ended up losing that game when the Steelers went to a short passing game out of the blue and kind of like changed their identity, mid game for the rest of the season. But yeah, the Ravens have had success even when when the Steelers were good against the run last year. It's an area I think that the Ravens can really exploit and really have to keep the ball ahead. It's keep the chains moving here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, big road game. You always want to be able to control the clock on the road, not getting those obvious passing downs, have the crowd go wild on third down. So, and Devontae Freeman, Jake, has emerged as the lead back for this team. I still want to see Tyson get the ball. If not him, then Nate. If not him, then sneak Duvernay in there and run some pitch plays, stretch the edge with whatever you can to add some speed. But even if the Ravens don't do that, I expect them to have success. Talk about the Ravens backfield and what are your thoughts on how we're using the guys right now?
Yeah, so right now it is pretty clear that Freeman is that number one guy. Latavius Murray is kind of the 1B. He is the hammer of the offense. Tim and Ricard, honestly. Those guys can just run. They will run into offensive linemen. They will run into defensive linemen. It doesn't really matter. They're kind of blind, just running into whomever is in their way to just get a couple yards and get that first down, get a touchdown, whatever it may be. And then Devontae Freeman is really proving himself to be the best running back that the coaches trust, that Lamar trusts, and he's playing pretty well. So I would love to see somebody with a little bit more juice. You mentioned him, Nate McCrary, and then of course Devin Duvernay. There's been so much talk about him. I've mentioned it. You've mentioned it, Garnett. I would like to
Hey,
see
Harbaugh
him.
finally got asked today. Harbaugh finally got asked. So,
Yeah.
man, the fan pressure getting in there a little bit. Jake, we're doing our job here.
Yeah, use him a little bit like Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. I think he has some of those similar characteristics where he can really do something with the ball in his hands and run through contact. So it would be great to see him used in a little bit more stereotypical running back mold rather than just on end arounds or just on screen passes, because he can do more and he has more speed than the other running backs that they're using. So Tyson Williams would be great to see. And, I've been preaching it just like you. Nate Dogg would be so fun to see.
Yeah.
I picked him up in a league or two in fantasy, just hoping that he was going to get a shot, and he still hasn't. So I think I'm going to have to pass on that, just like gamble or lottery ticket. But I'm looking forward to what this running game can do against Pittsburgh.
So I have a few thoughts, Ravens related here, and I actually was commenting on Jeff Zrebeck's tweets the other day when he was talking about Tyson, and people were commenting, and Nate McCrary, and him and I are on the same page. Basically, it seems to us that they're trying to give Tyson every chance that they can give him in practice, because we're not seeing him in games, to get his stuff together, to be that preseason Tyson Williams that the Ravens could really use. Because if they weren't showing faith in him, they would have already made the move and brought McCrary up, or maybe they don't feel as strongly about McCrary as we do. But whatever the case is, they know that if they make that move and expose one of them to waivers, you only get so many practice squad call-ups, that kind of thing, that they could lose McCrary like they did earlier to the Broncos, or lose Tyson Williams. So, maybe that's a move that they make later in the year, as in like the last few games, where they're saying, okay, Tyson, we've tried, we can't do it. But Tyson's under contract for another 2 years after this one, plus tenders and that kind of thing. So I think they see a future in him and are not ready to just, exile him to the practice squad. And they need to protect all these players with all these injuries. So they're trying to be patient with Tyson is what I'm gathering. And then on the Duvernay thing, I apologize for rambling, but I see this consternation between fans among things are said, well, Duvernay is not as good as Deebo Samuel, or Duvernay doesn't have the exact same skill set, the wiggle that Deebo has. And I agree with that. The thing is, this team doesn't need Duvernay to be Deebo Samuel.
Exactly.
Jake, it just needs somebody who can threaten the edge. And, you want to talk about, well, he can't pick out holes. He doesn't have the wiggle. Well, what about the mesh point? Forget about all that, Jake. Just pitch him the ball. A simple pitch left that high school teams do, or some kind of sweep play or whatever you want to call it, where you're not really relying on your line with any kind of special mobility or blocking scheme. Just let Duvernay beat a linebacker to the edge for goodness sake, and pick up 5 yards and kind of hold it, make the linebackers respect it. You'll get more up the middle if you have somebody that can threaten the edge. And that's my rant of the day. If you want to comment on that, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. He does not have to be Deebo Samuel at all. I think he could be 70% of that. I've said more. I think he can really be 80-85% of Deebo, but it doesn't truly matter because Devin Duvernay is not asked to be the number one wide receiver in Baltimore, and that's what Deebo Samuel is in San Francisco. So
good point.
You're taking a guy that is wide receiver 4, maybe 3, if Sammy Watkins isn't healthy in Baltimore, and you're talking about utilizing him as a quasi running back to help where the group has been very weak this year because of the injuries. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I've been waiting for it to happen, and we see the sparks. He's clearly the best punt returner in the NFL this year. He's a very good kick returner as well. And he's special with the ball in his hands, and he has great hands as well. So using him as a running back just makes too much sense, I guess, for Greg Roman, or maybe he's just, like you said, it's in the vault.
Right. Roman mentioned that today.
Yeah,
right.
Hopefully he opens up the vault because there's not much downside to opening it up because you give teams something else to worry about each week. Open up that vault, and if you hold it back, then you're giving Duvernay and the offense less time to get used to that situation where he's coming in and being involved in that way before the playoffs. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's time. I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it too, Jake. And, you made a great point there. Roman's point is, yeah, we have these plays for Duvernay, but we're keeping them in the vault. We don't want to show our entire hand. But the counterpoint to that, of course, is like you said, you give teams something else to prepare for. And then another point I haven't seen anybody say, but is absolutely true, is you get some reps. You get some live in-game reps, and that helps you be able to execute those plays better, know how teams are reacting. So, great point all the way around. So let's get to the passing game. Now, Lamar has struggled. The Ravens still putting up pretty good yards in the passing game overall, even with the career worst game for Lamar and Tyler Huntley starting the week before. They are averaging 7.4 yards per attempt, which is 12th in the league. They have still allowed 36 sacks, which is next to last in the league. Pittsburgh's pass defense, though, again, not as traditionally strong, especially with Joe Hayden out. They are allowing 7.6 yards per pass, which is 21st in the league. So again, this is a matchup where, the Ravens have the upside. They've shown that deep passing attack. Joe Hayden looks like he's going to be out for the Steelers. So this is a matchup that I would give the advantage to the Ravens to, in all honesty, even on the road.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's crazy to hear those numbers and really think about what the Ravens offense could do to the Steelers, even though I think it's going to be a close game. Vegas odds are usually pretty darn close to spot on. So, they have Joe Schobert. They have Devin Bush, who apparently isn't playing as well this year.
Yeah, he's been benched. He's been benched in passing downs, but with Spillane out this week with COVID, maybe Devin Bush gets another shot. But yeah, he's pretty much been demoted to a two down linebacker, Devin Bush.
Yeah, and right now it has him at 73.46% of snaps played on defense. So it's still a majority, almost like he's playing, 3/4 of the time. But
Right. Like
uh,
he gets taken out when they go to that dime defense and kind of like the Ravens play Chris Board. When there's one linebacker on the field, he's not the one linebacker. If he's part of a duo, they leave him in there.
yeah. And then the other guys to mention are Minka Fitzpatrick, of course, Terrell Edmonds. Both of those guys could be factors when you're talking about the Ravens offense and who they like to throw to. Mark Andrews. I'm looking at defenders that could be covering Money Mark over here,
Right.
and it sticks out to me. It's either going to be a safety or a linebacker most of the time. So those guys could make an impact in this game. Hopefully, Lamar shakes those interceptions and plays a clean game. I just want to see a clean game. It doesn't have to be a 4 touchdown passing game for him. It can be 1 or 2 passing touchdowns and then maybe a rushing touchdown, or you hand the ball off to somebody. But just a winning formula for this passing offense would be great. So those guys are going to be critical. And then the corners, like you mentioned, Joe Hayden is the veteran in the group. Man, when I think of Joe Hayden, I just think of Joe Flacco throwing him interceptions every single time they played. When Hayden was still in Cleveland, it was
Right.
clockwork that he was going to throw one at least to
He's a
Joe
great
Hayden.
player. Very good
Yeah,
player. Even
great
his old
player.
age. Yeah.
Yep, Pro Bowler in his time, and still a solid player. And I'm really surprised at how long he's been able to play at a high level.
Yeah, it looks like
So
Father Time's catching up to him a little bit with these injuries, but with Hayden out, with Arthur Millette, their slot corner, did not practice Thursday. That leaves them with Cam Sutton and not much else. So when I mentioned earlier, Jake, that if the offensive line of the Ravens can just hold their own against the Steelers front, the talent level between the Ravens receivers, I mean, check out what I'm saying here. The talent level on the Ravens side at receiver versus the DB talent of the Steelers is a mismatch in the Ravens' favor. Now, of course, Minka Fitzpatrick is awesome. He can only be in one place. Terrell Edmonds, never been a very good cover guy, to be quite honest, was a reach first-round pick for the Steelers. They basically drafted an average at best strong safety in the first round. Shades of Matt Elam there. He hasn't been that poor, but he's still playing. He's still under contract, so he must be doing okay. But man, a talent difference there, though, Jake, between the Ravens receivers of Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins, Devin Duvernay and company going against a banged up and, quite frankly, haven't been very effective Steelers secondary.
yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking at the names, the percentage of snaps played. Cameron Sutton's a pretty good player out of Tennessee, I believe. Joe Hayden, I guess probably not going to play at all in this game because he hasn't
Hasn't
practiced.
practiced and he hasn't played in a while. So hasn't
Yeah,
played in a while and still ain't practicing.
so it would definitely be a long shot. James Pierre is somebody that's played 56% of snaps for them on defense, so I imagine he's starting with Sutton, and then
How's he going to do against Hollywood Brown?
I don't think he's going to do so well, man. It's going to be tough because you're talking about Bateman, Hollywood, Watkins. I think he's starting to turn the corner a little bit, and Duvernay. Not to mention James Prochet, who has not had much of a shot in the Ravens offense recently. So I really agree with you. The talent in the secondary for Pittsburgh does not match up with what Baltimore has at receiver. A wild thing to say in Baltimore, but it is the truth right now, especially
It's a
with
mismatch too, man. Yeah.
especially with the injuries and the sickness that they have in Pittsburgh. Even without that, I think it's a mismatch. But especially with that, some guys possibly not playing, it definitely is a mismatch. And Baltimore can choose; they can pick and choose what they want to do in this game. They can go all out for the run, or they can nickel and dime them. They can hit them over the top with some deep plays to Hollywood, maybe a moderate to deep shot with Bateman, possibly another pass interference call because Bateman has kind of been the new Torrey Smith, but I'm hoping for an even better player down the road.
It's amazing what happens when you can actually track a ball, not like Miles Boykin. You actually can
Yep.
make a play on the ball and get some interceptions called or some pass interference called and prevent some interceptions. So, yeah, that trust factor, I would like to see that continue to grow between Bateman and Lamar, because Bateman's been open on the backside of a few of these crossers, and Lamar is just still, he's been so used to having to rely on Hollywood and Andrews on the front side. But, man, corners can't hang with Rashad Bateman. It's starting to show up more and more. So I'm looking for him to be featured. But yeah, plan of attack for me, Jake, on this is, now the normal balance for normal teams, at least in 2020, was about a 60% pass, 40% run. The Ravens were exactly even. They were 50-50 last year between pass plays and run plays when you took out the scrambles and did all that other technical stuff. But this is a game where I could see the Ravens being somewhere in that average range. Like, I don't think we need to go too pass heavy. I don't think we need to go too run heavy. I think it'll just be on Greg Roman to call a balanced game. And for really just for the players, that even more than Roman, just if the players execute, these plays that are going to be called are going to be successful against the Steelers. Their Steelers are giving up 24 points a game, so they've been outscored this year. Just keep it up. And how would you, I guess my specific question would be, how would you get Lamar comfortable in this game, coming off one of his worst games that he's had, and considering that the Steelers have been, the toughest matchup? He hasn't played well against the Steelers, Jake.
Yeah, so for me, I think the running game is going to be critical early. Not just the running backs, but Lamar himself. He seems to get in a little bit of a groove when he can get out of the pocket, or maybe take one up through the middle on a counter bash or something like that, and just move the ball. If he's moving the ball, maybe get some quick passing game in there, he will become comfortable against this Pittsburgh defense, and start throwing it to some guys that aren't the obvious target. I mean, if Pittsburgh's going all after Mark Andrews or all after Hollywood Brown, guess what? You got a first round draft pick, Rashad Bateman, sitting right there, and he's probably wide open. Start using Bateman a little bit more. Everybody in the fan base is yelling on Twitter each and every week for Bateman to get his first touchdown, and I think it has to happen soon. If it doesn't happen soon, then something is wrong with the play calling. Something is wrong with the chemistry, because he's too talented of a player and Lamar's too good of a quarterback for it to not work out. So I would love to see just the connection between Lamar Bateman, Lamar Duvernay, and then of course the obvious guys in Andrews and Hollywood, and then getting Freeman and the running backs involved. So I don't know. I think it's about moving the ball, converting on first and second down. Of course, third down is the most important down, but really second down is so huge. If you have a dud of a play on first down, you have to make some decent chunk of yards on second. And the Ravens have struggled to do that in many games this year, and I think that's what's holding them back. So if Lamar, Greg Roman, and the offense can figure out what to do on second down if they have a failure on first, it's going to go a big way, a long way into determining who wins this game.
I'm with you, Jake. I'd like to see the ball spread out more among the running backs, with specifically Tyson if he's active. I would love to see him get 5 carries and take it away from Murray's role if you have to, who's basically just running up the middle into a pile. Let Freeman go up the middle. Let Freeman make his jump cut and get north-south. We've seen him do that really well. Like, Freeman has impressed me. I mean, he's I was talking on Monday to Chris in the game review, I would have liked to seen Freeman in his prime play every game, because he's just he's got that gamer to him, Jake. You know what I mean? His physical skills have probably eroded now at this age, but you see that north-south, you see that jump cut, you see the gamer, the baller in Freeman. So I love the fact that he has come in and emerged as a threat here. But other than that, yeah, man, I mean, it would be nice to get Prochet a couple of touches, to get Duvernay a couple of actual pass plays to him, to feature Bateman more, to really spread this ball out and try to form an identity going down the stretch, which is, you're going to have to defend a lot of different guys with this Ravens team. We're not going to have to lean on Lamar. We got other weapons.
Absolutely. And I think for so long we've witnessed Roman or the Ravens offense lean so heavily on Lamar being that primary ball carrier, that primary weapon, that defenses just key in on him. And if the Ravens can finally trust in other playmakers besides Hollywood and besides Andrews to be yards after catch guys, then this offense is going to open up so much that defenses really won't have one answer to stop it. It truly can be that almost unstoppable type force if they are using all of their players to their best ability.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So, any final thoughts on this game? My final thoughts are that I just would like to see us dominate this game. Obviously, winning the game is more important, but it would be a really good sign for us to do what we're capable of doing in this situation in Pittsburgh. And like I said at the beginning, I think that this crowd could be something that we could not only take out of the game, but could fuel us coming down and say, hey, look, we smell the blood in the water. We got our foot on the neck of the Steelers, and we could really push down on that and make things tough for them the rest of the season and create some kind of internal chaos in this stadium. So however it is, whether it's you force Big Ben to sail one and you get a turnover, or if you score fast, put the pressure on them and, you force 3 punts in a row and you end up putting up, 17, it's 17-0 early or 14-0 early, it could really put the Steelers in the bad spot. So yeah, quick start, which you want every week. But I think that in this game, you could really crush your division rivals' hopes in this game, and maybe even make that week 18 matchup a little bit easier for yourself in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. Honestly, a win is all I'm looking for, simply because I can't trust confidence going into any game this year with this Ravens team. Almost every single win has been just a nail biter. So I just want to win. I want to see this team get to 9 and then 10 and then 11, but it's really one at a time. They truly need 3. They need 3 more wins. If they get to 11, then I think they're a lock for the playoffs, and they help themselves a ton if they can go into Heinz Field and get the win and put some pressure on the rest of the division. Really kind of crush the hopes of Pittsburgh, and if they go out and do their best, then I will be happy with the outcome. Simply because if they are doing their absolute best, I think they beat Pittsburgh. I say that every week, and other teams probably think the same thing. Like, if their team plays their best, then they're going to win, because Baltimore is not, whatever. But honestly, the matchups favor the Ravens in this one. In so many ways. Special teams we didn't get into. Tucker is a better kicker than Boswell. It was hilarious the one year that Boswell made the Pro Bowl. He was either instead of Tucker, or maybe they were both in the same year when they decided to not do the AFC versus NFC. But it is just clear that Justin Tucker is the best kicker in the NFL, and I think this matchup bodes well for the Ravens, and I truly just want to see a win.
There you go. So thank you so much to my football family out there. Obviously, Garnett, we're thinking about you, buddy. Give me a go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you see this video. Give me a tweet, text, something. Let us know that you're okay. But, if you have any thoughts about the game, please drop them below. Would love to hear where you think the Steelers have a matchup. Jake, do you have something you wanted to say?
Got one more thing. Go Dogs. We got the SEC championship this weekend.
Okay.
I know there's some Bama fans in Ravens flock. Please forgive me, but I need the Dogs to win this thing. It is Georgia's year. If there's any a year for UGA to win the whole dang thing, it is this year. So I have a huge football weekend ahead of me, and I'm hoping Georgia can beat Bama, and then I'm hoping the Ravens can kick some butt against the Steelers.
Well, Ravens fans, I'm using all my energy on the Ravens. this sham of a sport that they call college football that has never really crowned a true champion is not something that I can root for any particular team. I just like the prospects. Now I want to get my hands on Jordan Davis, and of course he'll be long gone. Wasn't a fan of your safety Kine though, man. I think he's a headhunter. I think he's going to be a penalty accumulator at the next level. I mean, I like his style. I love hard hitting players, but when I looked at him, I was like, yeah. I don't know. That's a strong safety with some some potentially dangerous penalties coming his way, and I haven't seen him cover. So can't wait to go back and forth with you, Jake, on some of these Georgia players come draft time, because man, they have a slew. What a college team! You got yourself quite. I was joking about the whole sham thing, just trying to stir people up, but man, what a team Georgia has this year, man. They look awesome, bro.
Yeah, I hope they can keep it up and they don't fall victim to the big brother syndrome. I really think they are the better team this year. They've proven it in the similar games that they've played. Both teams have played Auburn. Both teams have played Arkansas. Both teams have played another big team. And Georgia has by far played better against those teams than Bama has. Florida was the other one. So it really is about them doing their job, not worrying about what other people are saying, and just proving that this year, if not just in the future years, but just this year, Georgia is the best team in college football. So that's what I want to see. And then after Saturday, when the clock hits, quadruple zeros, I will be on to the Ravens.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, we got some bonus content in here. That is what we call bonus content from real Jake Vogel on Twitter. If you can't stand the Georgia Bulldogs, please harass him on Twitter. That would be great, man. We could get some harassment, but yeah, Jake, thanks so much as usual. Garnett, praying for you. Thank you to my football family for watching. Jake, it's that time, man. Say goodbye.
Peace.